Waxing your concrete stained floors. The best floor wax to use is just a simple mop-on style wax. The mop-on style wax is not only easier to apply, but it's easier to maintain. You never need a buffing machine, and mop-on is actually a little bit misleading. You don't use a mop. What you use is a lamb's wool applicator or a synthetic wax applicator. You could use a sponge mop, but it tends to leave little lines where the edge of the sponge mop is. So I highly recommend a lamb's wool applicator. Again, you can use a synthetic wax applicator if you choose, but a lamb's wool applicator is the applicator of choice. What you'll do is you will pour the wax into a paint pan. You then dip the lamb's wool applicator into the wax and you rake the excess wax out of the lamb's wool applicator so it spills back into the paint pan, and then you apply it on the floor. You're going to work in sections, and of course you're working your way backwards just like with all the other steps, and you are going to wax backwards and forth 2 or 3 times, backwards and forth, and you're going to make sure that the last stroke is to you. You're always pulling the wax to you. Whenever you use a mop-on wax, the idea is to apply it as thin as you possibly can. It's a lot like the water-based sealer. You want to put it on thin. And so you're going to put it on, you go backwards and forth 2 or 3 times, last stroke towards you, and you just keep moving on down the line until you wax yourself out. After you've applied the first coat, you're going to allow it to dry. Mop-on wax usually takes about an hour to dry between coats. So you do your first coat, let it dry for about an hour. You're going to know that it's dry because mop-on wax is usually a milky white in the jug, and whenever you mop it on, it mops on kind of with a whitish, kind of a bluish haze, and then it dries clear, very clear. And so you're going to know that it's dry because it's going to have dried down clear. But it usually takes on average about an hour. After the first coat is dried, then you're going to apply the second coat. And just like the sealer, if it's at all possible, apply it in the opposite direction you did the first coat, like north to south first coat, east to west second coat. If you can't, then it'll be alright. It won't be that great of a drama, but you do need to try to go in opposite directions if you can. After you have applied your initial coats, then you're going to allow it to dry overnight before you get on it with any kind of foot traffic. Clean up your lamb's wool applicator or your synthetic applicator with warm water. That way you can reuse it whenever you need it.
Man, wax is the best part, because not only does it serve as a sacrificial coat that protects your concrete, but it lasts many months, it's easy to clean, easy to maintain, and if it ever does show a little wear and tear, you mop on a fresh coat of that wax and bam! It looks as good as new.
You never need to use a buffing machine with mop-on waxes, although you can use a buffing machine if you like. Standing water for an extended period of time on wax can cause the wax to go cloudy or blue, but usually a good mop-on wax, once it is dried, will dry back down clear. Most waxes, mop-on waxes, are UV resistant, but they will not hold up to chemicals such as gas, oil drips, paint thinners, or heavy cleaners like ammonia. We do not recommend using a grip additive in the sealer whenever you're going to wax it. If you have a traction additive built into the sealer, then it gives it a sandpaper type texture, and that tends to grab on to the lamb's wool, and it tends to make it really difficult to wax. So if you're going to be waxing, we recommend that you do not use a traction additive. And that concludes the applying the floor wax section.